Hello and welcome to another knitting tutorial video. This one is going to show you how to do the drop chain stitch. You can see a couple of them completed over here on the right side of my swatch. This is a 3-stitch drop chain stitch and these two are 2-stitch drop chain stitches. You can see this 3-stitch one is quite a bit poofier than the other ones. It stands out from the fabric and just makes this really nice squishy braid. I'm going to show you how to work both of these now using the other side of my swatch. So when you're working in the drop chain stitch, you don't work this pattern as you're working as you're knitting the pattern up. You work it after the knitting has already been done. So you knit to the point at which you want your drop chain stitch, and you knit to your stitches that you're going to work the drop chain stitch over, and then you drop them. And then you unravel your stitches all the way back to the beginning. So it is quite literally a dropped chain because you're dropping all of your stitches. Sometimes if you're using a woolly yarn, the stitches will want to stick together, so just kind of pull them apart as you go. And this takes a few minutes to do. You can see my dropped floats are pretty kinky because I've already blocked this swatch, but I decided I would just use my swatch to do this tutorial instead of knitting up a new piece of fabric because I've already got this one done. So depending on where you want to work your drop chain back to is where you'll stop dropping your stitches. In the Alpenglow cardigan, I have you go clear back to the beginning. But you want to be careful not to lose your cast on. So when I get to here, you can see that these 2 stitches are the first row that have been worked, and then these 2 under here are the ones that have been cast on. So I'm just going to pick up my cast on 2 stitches before I take this last float out. That way I don't lose my cast on and end up with a giant problem. So now I've got my 2 cast on stitches and all of my dropped floats. So what you're going to do with the 2-stitch one is you're going to use your crochet hook, and I'm using a size 10 crochet hook, and this is a size 10.5 needle, so it's slightly smaller. It doesn't need to be exact, but roughly the same size would be good. So you take your crochet hook, grab your floats, 2 floats, and pull them through your 2 stitches clear back at the beginning. After you do that, you want to pull it through and kind of snug it up to the side so that you don't have blank spaces on either side of your drop chain stitch. So just pull it through and kind of snug it up. Then 2 more floats, pull it through, snug it up. 2 more floats, pull it through, snug it up. And you just repeat this process until you return to the top of your work. Now you see here I've got 3 floats instead of 2. At this point you can either do 2 floats and then use this one separately, but that makes kind of a scrawny ending. So I would rather just do all 3 through at once and snug it in, and you've got your chain done. It looks a little bit rumply because, like I said, this swatch was blocked before we ripped it out, and it's a bit rumply because all of the yarn was kinky, but if you blocked it, it would smooth out just like these ones. Now once you're at the top of your drop chain stitch, you just take your last big loop that's on your crochet hook, put it back on your left hand needle so that the right hand leg is in front just like you would a regular knit stitch. Then you take your working yarn and you knit through all those loops at once, just like it's one big knit stitch, and you knit it. And then you continue on your way. So this is the 2-stitch drop chain stitch, and I'm going to move over a little bit, and then I'm going to do a 3-stitch drop chain stitch to show you that one. So here's where we're going to work our 3-stitch drop chain stitch. So I'm going to drop 3 stitches off my needles, And then I'm going to drop these stitches all the way back to the beginning. Might be able to hear my girls a little bit in the background. They were told to be quiet, but that's a pretty tall order for a 5-year-old. They're whispering. Okay, here we are almost back to the beginning. And one more row, and then I'm going to grab my cast on stitches. So like the 2-stitch one, I didn't go clear back to the beginning yet. I've got my first row of work stitches, and then there's my cast on underneath them. So I'm going to come through and pick up my cast on stitches, get the right leg of the stitch in front, just like when you're picking up knit stitches for any other reason. There I have them. Now I'm going to take out this last float. It's a little bit stuck. There we go. Now I've got them all. And once again, it's really kinky because I've blocked this swatch. Now I'm going to grab 3 of these floats as I work my way up. And this is a bit harder because 3 of the floats is a lot bulkier than 2. So that takes a bit more work to get them through your first stitches here at the bottom. So just slowly go through all my stitches, then snug it up. And now I've got my big 3 float chain started. So I grab 3, I guess they're not technically floats, but 3 dropped stitches. Every time as you go up, just grab 3 ladders and then snug it up. You don't want to end up with a situation where your drop chain has these big loose sides, and if that happens, you can just pull it back up again and snug it back up so that it's nice and firm next to the side. So grabbing 3 ladders at a time. Did I lose one? I did, I lost one, so I'm going to grab this again. Okay, now 3 ladders at a time. How many do we have left? So I've got 4 left. So just like the 2-stitch one, I'm just going to grab all the ladders that are left and pull them through at once. And then, whoops, I've lost one again. And then I'm going to slide them all together back onto my left-hand needle with the right leg in front, just like you would a knit stitch. And then I'm going to knit this whole big loop together as if it was 1 stitch. And then continue on working the pattern. So that is how you work a 2-stitch and 3-stitch drop chain stitch, which they're very rumply because, like I said, it was blocked before I knitted with it again. But after blocking, it would look like this. So here's the 3-stitch one and the 2-stitch ones. And that is how you make the drop chain stitch.